I was given this Winsor and Newton Cotman Watercolour palette a couple of years ago for Christmas, and I've used it a fair amount. And I thought I'd take you on a little tour, tell you what I love about it, tell you what maybe is not so perfect about it, and you can decide if this is what you would like to purchase or not. So it's the pocket set, and it's meant to be carried in your pocket when you're traveling, and it's tiny, so you could absolutely fit it into a pocket or throw it into a bag. And it has not everything you'd want to do watercolors, but a fair amount. So it packs a lot in this tiny little space. So you open it up. Now, I always have trouble opening it. It's like the latch really keeps it shut, which is fantastic for traveling, but can be a little bit annoying when you're opening it up. So just keep that in mind, and I don't know, just be okay with that, or maybe that's just how my particular palette works. So you open it up and you lay it down. Now, one of the strange things about it is it has this rubbery blue piece, and it doesn't allow it to necessarily lay flat. Now, the rubbery blue piece on the back, this piece right here, it is so that you can kind of stick your finger through it, and you can hold it with one hand, and you can then kind of keep it stable as you're painting while you're standing up. So that's one feature, but when you want to just lay it flat, you can just kind of slide it and remove it, and then let's see how easy it is to open. So it does take a little bit of an effort to open for whatever reason. You can keep it nice and flat when you've removed the blue piece. So I've already shown the little paintbrush. I don't love this paintbrush. It doesn't work that great, and also really hate using such a short little paintbrush. I like to paint mostly keeping my hand a little bit further up the brush. So of course there's no length there. So I find that a little bit annoying, but it does fit perfectly within it. So you don't need to take another paintbrush with you. And the other nifty little feature with this is it has several removable palettes, so you have a lot of extra mixing space. So you need to use the paintbrush to pull it out. So you have all this extra mixing space in such a tiny little piece. I think Winsor and Newton, they have more than one Cotman little watercolor palette like this, and they've really done taken a lot of time to think about different ways to ingeniously give watercolorists as much to work with in such a tiny little package. So I really appreciate that from Winsor and Newton. Now it comes with 12 different colors, and most of them I think are quite good choices. You have your cool and warm yellow, you have your cool and warm red. What I find weird and I don't love is it comes with cobalt blue and ultramarine blue. I personally find those colors so similar. I would have used some sort of chosen one of the blues to be more of a green leaning blue. But once I use up the cobalt, I'll just refill that with the blue of my choice. It also comes with a couple of greens: Viridian green, sap green, yellow ochre, and burnt sienna and burnt umber as some kind of earth tones. And then Chinese white, which is not really, I don't really use white, so you can see I've barely touched it while I've used a lot of the other colors. So eventually one day I'll probably just pop that out and add a different color as well. So I've shown you kind of the nuts and bolts of it. I'm just going to spray the paint, and we'll give it a few minutes, and I will show you what the paints actually look like. Okay, I've given these a few minutes to kind of let the water soak in and soften the paint. So I will just do a little bit of swatching just so you can see what the paint looks like. I have done a swatch sheet. I always do that if it's right within the palette itself, so I always know what I'm getting into. And anyways, I'll at least start with using the provided paintbrush, just so you can see what that's kind of like. But like I said, I'm not a huge fan of using it. I don't like using such a short brush. So this first color is cadmium yellow pale hue. And I find, the pigments aren't as strong as using a, as with artist quality paint, because these are Cotmans, but they're pretty good. These aren't perfectly clean paint colors either, but it gives you an idea. I don't know if you as a watercolorist are really good at keeping your paint color separate, but our paint colors perfectly clean, but I'm not super awesome at that. That second one is cadmium yellow hue, so it's a bit of a warmer yellow. Now demonstrate cad red pale hue. It's a very orangey red. I'm just going to switch over to the other paintbrush just because I find it more comfortable in my hand. I like holding, whoops, oh, that's not watery enough. I like holding my paintbrushes quite high up the handle. And that is alizarin crimson hue. So a nice blue leaning red. Now cobalt blue, I'm running a little low on the cobalt blue, which is purposeful because I want to use it up so that I can replace it with a green leaning color. Now ultramarine. I mean, these two are definitely two different blues, but I just find them too similar when you're mixing. I feel like we're really missing that green leaning blue to be able to do color mixes. Now we do have Viridian green, so when I do want to have something that I would normally mix with like a phthalo blue, let's say, I use the Viridian green, but I do find it a little bit trickier to mix. Now sap green, I'm glad they do include sap green because I really do like mixing with sap green. I find it works really well for doing a lot of landscape greens. It's a bit of a pale sap green, but it still works pretty good. Now quickly yellow ochre, so you have an additional version of yellow to do some mixes with, which is great. And burnt sienna. I use the burnt sienna with either the cobalt or the ultramarine quite a bit to make nice grays. Whoops, oh, what am I doing? Dropping things. And the burnt umber. And last but not least, or maybe it is the least because it's the white, which I never use. Of course, you can't really see it as I'm swatching. Yeah, I should really just pop that out because it's not a very useful color, but it's really common to get whites in different student grade sets. But I just really haven't been using it. And I'll just do a couple quick mixes just so you can kind of see what can be done. Let's see, I'll do the burnt sienna we'll do it with cobalt. A little bit more blue. And there you go. That's a really nice gray. So you can get some really great colors with this, I think. I'll just mix. I'll do a quick mix. I'll use one of these other palette pieces. This is one of the things I really, really like about this set is just how many mix spots you have for mixing. You know, they give you different sizes, you know, some ones larger spaces for doing really big puddles of color and kind of a medium and some smaller spaces. I think it's just fantastic the way that they've thought this out. So get ourselves a nice orange. So I've used the cadmium red pale hue, the one that was more orange leaning, and mixed it with the cad yellow hue and get a nice orange. I think I mentioned it already. You don't get as much of a pigment load with the Cotman colors as you do with the artist grade, but for the price of this set, this is, you know, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And, you know, if you're just starting out, you can really test it out, see if you like watercolors. And then as you go through these, you can just buy new tubes and you can fill it up And then, over time, you can either choose the colors that you actually want to put in here. Like, let's say you don't want a cad red pale hue, but you want a different cool red. You can do that over time. And you can also replace it with artist grade, because going straight into artist grade watercolors is really expensive. So going with a set like this that is really nicely thought out is really fantastic. So I absolutely recommend this palette for beginners, intermediates, people who want to have something to take along with them as they travel.